check with you about lead. I went across the creek, and I think I got a trail in there, and I found that little alder flat and that seep you were talking about. And so I just want to check with you. So I assume that you're going to have the hand fallers tip the stuff side hill with the tips pointed in the downstream direction. Is that correct? Okay, yeah, okay, so that's how I'm going to fall that stuff over there too. And the stuff on our side of the canyon, the Landon side, there's that pretty nice sliver between the old grade running down the hill and the property line. It seems like that stuff there, I can kind of tip in the direction, kind of it tips towards where I'm going to cross the creek, and pull that stuff back, in that direction. Is that? Yeah, exactly. Yep. Right. Yep. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Good. And I hope that I can get a couple places below the old grade. I'm looking at one right now. So, that stuff will be tipped down the hill and I'm looking at it from the top. I'll try to quarter it to the left slightly. So. What's that? Say it again. Yep. Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And yeah. So. I think so. Yeah. I mean, it remains to be seen. I mean, there's definitely water coming down somewhere, but I think it'll be all right. The grade's fairly decent. Yeah, copy. Yep. Yeah, so this is a yarder patch that I cut recently. Following up on that suggestion from Nuts319, who was asking about the differences between cutting for a shovel and cutting for a yarder. I'll use this opportunity to talk about cutting for a yarder. So I guess I think there are three things that are really important in cutting for a yarder that are different than for a shovel patch. In order of importance, those would be communication and layout and then lead. So that conversation I was having just before these scenes here was with one of my bosses, who on this project was serving as the hook tender for this yarder setting. And for those of you who don't know, the hook tender is a critical position on a yarder side, a yarder setting. The hook tender is responsible for basically the setup of the yarder on the landing, its orientation, and how the progression of the logging is going to run on the unit. Also responsible for picking out guy line stumps to anchor the yarder, lift trees and tail hold stumps as they're necessary. As the big wood and the big stumps goes away, those are becoming more and more difficult to find. So I had a couple questions as I was walking about the lead and just wanted to confirm that we were both on the same page still on how the unit was going to log. And I think that's critical to ensure that the cutting is done well, and then so therefore the yarder will be able to operate smoothly and efficiently and effectively and productively. And so yeah, good communication. When I was responsible for running multiple bunchers, I always wanted to meet with a hook tender prior to starting to cut on combination units. Not the harvest manager, but the hook tender, because he's responsible for picking up the pieces of the cutting. So on this unit here, as is typical in a lot of Northwest Oregon, There was a canyon that basically bisected the unit, and that had live water in it. So we had permission to cross it. It was a non-fish creek, but the requirement was to chunk it up so my machine wouldn't touch water or touch the banks on either side. That gave me access to this far side of the canyon. The job itself was, I would describe it as a cleanup unit. The landowner was hoping to cut the unit, which involved a lot of junk, to be fair. And there was some good fur, and the hope was that the combination of a lot of junk and the good wood would put together enough income to pay for the piling and the prep of the land, the planting, and hopefully leave something for the landowner in terms of profit. And that kind of investment in the future happens every day on Northwest timberlands. Landowners, kind of addressing mistakes from the past and making an investment in the future. So Oregon forest land remains viable into the future. It happens every day. So that creek that I crossed on this side made it imperative that the fir, which was quite nice and tall, was going to have to be hand fell and bucked. And so I was basically focusing on the low grade, the hardwood, alder, whatnot, which was shorter and wouldn't need to be bucked out, and is also really difficult to hand fell efficiently for the yarder. I was leaving, the fir because, like I said, that would need to be bucked out, and if I cut it, it makes it hard for me to separate it, and harder for the hand fallers. And so another thing I had to keep in mind was protecting the standing timber so I wasn't brushing up the hand fallers, which increases their work and thereby increases their cost to the project. So that kind of brings me into layout. And, layout in yarder ground is even more important than layout in shovel ground because it's just more challenging. And, I cut freestyle, so a lot of what I'm doing is trying to pick a place that I can get into an area, and more importantly, get out. Getting out's always the question. And so again, it's just so valuable to walk a piece, scratch your head a lot, and pick out places where you can, you can wiggle your way down, work around the obstacles, and get back out. And the weather was favorable on this patch, so that made that job easier. But one of the tricks I used quite a bit in the past, and I used it on this one, there were numerous side draws. That's also typical for Northwest Oregon. Some of them were wet, others of them you knew there was water in them, but it wasn't visible. And real steep pitches, often at the top. So I think there are 2 or 3 places I was able to work my way down, one finger, pick a place to cross a draw in a favorable location using wood, and cut my way up a steep ravine up to where I couldn't climb, lead my way out, go back down, cross the same place, and then cross or clean out the first finger on the way cutting up to the top. So that's a good trick, and the only way you can find that is by walking a lot. It's not always pleasant, but it sure is nice when you got it figured out, and you're going to be able to get back out. So then the last thing, of course, is the lead. The lead, as long as you're in the ballpark, or you know how the logging's going to go, cutting for a yarder could be a little more, favorable or easier because they have the ability to pull line to it. Now you don't want to put the rigging crew in a position where they're busting their butts constantly to set chokers, but you can get wood on the ground sometimes that isn't in a perfect lead, but is favorable for them. So on this little scene here, the lead kind of came into play. This is on the close or the near side of the canyon. It was nice fur, beautiful form, good size. It's a nice little piece of gravy to end up on. And my lead here, I was cutting it so if they needed to, they could yard it. As I said, the weather was good, but that could change in a heartbeat. So the lead is favorable to shovel, but if they needed to yard it, they've got that option. And that's really the key, is more options. So yeah, there you go. I mean, that's some thoughts on cutting for a yarder. Hope you find it interesting. And thanks again to Nuts for the suggestion. Any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. Feel free to shoot us a comment. As always, thanks for watching. Be safe.